All right. I think that is it. I always wonder, I'm like, are we live? Is there a delay? You never really know. But
Yeah.
I think we're facing the Facebook world right now. So thank you, everybody who is tuning in. I want to thank Will Greenblatt from Out Loud Speaker School for joining me today. Will and I talked about, I don't, was it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so.
And I mean, you come from a very different specialization than I do.
Yeah.
And the more we talked, the more excited I got because I was like, it connects so beautifully. And one of the things that I'm a huge proponent for is understanding who you are as a company from an employer brand perspective.
Mhm.
So when we think about employer brand, when we think about a brand in general, you think Target, okay, well, these are the attributes I'd give Target, or WestJet, these are the attributes I'd give WestJet, or Tim Hortons or McDonald's. And then when you flip that around and you think about employer brand, so when we think Target, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, what do we think about them as an employer? What are those underlying assumptions that we've been told or that we have come to understand to believe that they are as an employer? And so we're big proponents of trying to build that employer brand from the HR side of things as
Right.
a tool to attract and retain the best talent. But you come at it from a very different point of view in terms of defining that. So I'd love, Will, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, and we'll jump right
Sure.
into it.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for having me, Laura. It's really, really nice to be here. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. So, I run Out Loud Speaker School, and we are a team of actors teaching public speaking, communication, and storytelling skills, as well as pitch coaching to entrepreneurs. So, the public speaking and the storytelling piece is kind of for any business person or executive, sales team, anybody who has to have internal or external conversations and wants to improve the outcomes of them, and improve their confidence just having those conversations, the moments beforehand or during where you feel like you don't know what to do. And there's such a huge gap in public speaking education out there, like from the time we're in school, even in, law programs or MBAs or, these post-secondary programs that are supposed to be preparing us for the real world. There's like a woeful lack of public speaking communication training, we've noticed, which is why we started Out Loud Speaker School. So that's how we help. And that's kind of, we come at it from an acting background. My co-founder and I were both actors. And then we also have both been teachers. So we kind of brought acting, teaching, and entrepreneurship, understanding storytelling from a business perspective as well, and put that all together in the training that we offer.
Oh, that's amazing. What a interesting intersection. Like, when
Yeah.
you were 14 years old, you're like, you know what I want to be when I grow up?
Never. Yeah. I wanted to be a hockey player, and I was in denial for that until I was about 13. I was like, okay, I'm never going to make the NHL. And then I thought I was going to be an actor, but I ended up having such a terrible time at theater school. It was a really toxic environment that I went through, and we had multiple mental health issues while we were there, people dropping out or having to take time off because they had nervous breakdowns or worse. And when I graduated, I had such a bad taste in my mouth from the industry and what it seemed like the demands were. So I said, screw it, I quit. And I kind of ran away, and I traveled the world a little bit. And then that's where I found the teaching and the entrepreneurship. But it's so cool to be able to piece those seemingly different things together and then do something cohesive. And we're going to talk about that today, the idea of being able to take the main pieces of your personal life story as a small business owner and explain that to your customers, but also to the people who are working for you, so they can understand why you do what you do and really get behind it once they understand it and like it.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Tell me a little bit more about why it's so important for small businesses to really understand the importance of communicating their story.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, think about the difference between rival companies, right? One company says, we provide essential software systems for middle to small, blah, blah, blah. You go, okay, I know what you do. And then another one says, when I was having my first child, I never got to spend any time with him because I was always trying to solve these annoying computer problems at my work. I developed a software solution that allowed me to get things done 3 times faster so I could go home and be with my newborn child. Boom. Which one do you want to work for? The first one doesn't really stand out. It sounds jargony. It sounds dry and inhuman, really. Just a little, like there's no human element to that. The other one, first of all, they're a parent. You have that huge piece of information about their family. It makes you like them. The more information we have about a person, the more we like them. And the same is true of brands, whether that's a customer facing brand or an employer brand. So you give more, you let them into your personal story. I have a child and I had this problem where I was missing my child. And then there's a powerful why and an understanding of your customers' problems. I know that people want to spend more time with their families. So that's why I created my product. And then the employees of that company will go, I want to do that. I don't want to provide software solutions. I want to help people spend more time with their families. It's a more emotionally and ethically interesting thing to be doing with your life.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes as small business owners, we hide behind the fact that we're a small business because like, oh, well, why would they want to come work for our 3-person or 4-person company when they can go down the street and work for giant conglomerate with, social, career ladder and all of these benefits. And we forget that people aren't necessarily all wanting to climb a social ladder, and they're all not vying to be, the top salesperson in XYZ, that they want to have some kind of personal attachment to the place that they spend the most time almost in their week. And so we hide behind the things that make us the most unique, that are going to attract the right people to our organization.
Yeah, which is your story, right?
Exactly.
That's, nobody can replicate your story by definition. It's yours. And so that's the only way to have a truly unique selling proposition or unique employer brand, is to say, this is my story. Nobody else has it. So if you like it.
I've heard people hiding behind the fact that it's a family company, or I've heard people hiding behind the fact, owners are related, and all of those types of different stories, which make the basis for that, why that business was built, so incredible. But it's almost like we fear the personal in the business world. We fear a small business. We kind of fear what people might think of us from a personal level within our business, because we've been so conditioned that, the big box with the, C-suite and is all that people want.
Right. And it's really not. I mean, even if you just look at the data, especially with like a younger workforce, I was doing some research kind of for this, and I was noticing a huge trend is basically Gen Z and Y and millennial employees, which are the workforce that is that is coming into it, want to work for something that has corporate social responsibility and ethical practices or ethical values. And so corporations are still very much behind on that. They may pay lip service to ethical or corporate social responsibility, but because of the nature of their size and complexity, we know that's not really their jam. They're trying to make as much money as possible for their stakeholders. Smaller businesses, we have less overhead, and and we're not caught up in this game of providing profits to our shareholders, so we can actually work in an ethical way, and there's less bureaucracy. There's so many things that are attractive about that. And again, but again, speaking to that fear that you mentioned, a lot of small business owners are scared to be real people and small business owners. They want to seem like the big guys, so they hide behind layers of opaque, language, for instance, on the website. Like, again, here's where jargon comes in. I want to sound professional, so I'm going to put a bunch of jargon on my website. But it's so much better if you say, hey, my name's Will. I was an actor. I started this company because I really believe that I want people to feel more confident when they're speaking in public, and I want them to actually, make an impact in the world. And I've had stage fright. I've had performance anxiety. I know how awful it is, and I want to help solve that. Rather than we provide state-of-the-art quality purpose training. It's just not real. It's not human. And so, but the instinct is to do it so that we seem like the big corporations. But we have to know that that's not what makes us unique. It's the other, it's the opposite.
And you talk about like the incoming generations of workers. And one of the things people disregard, they think, oh, well, all this generation, all they do is they hold their phones and they hang out behind their phones. But actually the thing that they want most in the world is connection.
Yeah.
And when you're a small business owner, guess what you have the most of, or the ability to have the most of, is connection with your teams, which is, if you look at it from a generational perspective, and I'm also a proponent to say every generation wants connection. We've just labeled this one differently. That, the small business actually has the foot in the door on that aspect. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what are the most important aspects of a small business story or a small business owner's story that they should really kind of have played out in their head and be able to nail down?
So I try to start with this kind of question, like, just tell me about when I'm working with a client, like, tell me about your childhood. Where and how did you grow up? And then, obviously that can be a loaded question for some people, but it's really important to understand, for me to understand where this person comes from. And for many people, this will be the first time they're ever piecing this together.
Mhm.
Why am I here in my life right now starting this company? And they may not connect it to their childhood, and it sort of sounds like therapy almost. And in a way, it is bordering on that, is understanding yourself, why your experiences and your upbringing and your education and everywhere you went and everything you did led you to this moment, because it all factors in. So I say, okay, what did you used to do? And then where do you think the aha moment or the turning point was, where you realized there's a problem and then you're now solving that problem with your business? So it's kind of like, I use the hero's journey a lot of the time for teaching storytelling. And the hero's journey starts with what they call the ordinary world. The ordinary world is just somebody walking along, living their life, and then boom, the call to adventure comes. And that's like, hey, here's this problem, or here's this opportunity. Are you going to come solve it? And so I try to think of it in those terms. So you're living your life, and then boom, you go to another country and you see intense poverty, and it shakes you out of your kind of privileged life. And you go, oh shit, like things are really intense for some people. Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to curse.
We're good.
Yeah, right. And then, or it could be, you were working and then you had this horrible back pain. So you needed to do something about it. And then you started this, you invented this device that helps you sit up straight and solves back pain. There was this great Canadian startup on Dragon's Den that had that story, and it gives, first of all, it makes you clear on why you do what you do, and to do that, to understand your sort of ordinary life, and then the call to adventure is important. But then you can regurgitate that to your fans and also to your employees. Yeah. I was living like this, I was doing this thing, and I wasn't happy, or something needed to change, or there was some kind of problem or opportunity, and I saw it, and now I'm doing this. And now I'm more me, and I'm happier, and I found my purpose, and I'm, doing what I really love. And those are the people that we want to work with. Those are the people we want to be attached to, whether as a customer or an employee. So to make that really clear in your mind, just think, what was I doing before I started this? And then when was the moment where I realized that this is what I wanted to do? And how do I tell that story in a really engaging way?
Now, I know we're going to jump next week. We're going to do this again, and we're going to talk more about the employee and employer communication, and how storytelling and what you do can impact the employee to employer communication. But why don't we kind of go into the abstract of how does the aspect of communication in general intersect with being an employer of choice? So if you can nail this story down, and if you can nail the communication about what you stand for as a brand and as an employer, how do you see that affecting? I mean, you've probably also had workplace situations where you've worked over the years and you're like, wow, now looking back, I see that connection to what they did and what I was doing.
Yeah. So to answer the first part of your question, I think the having the consistency of that story across all of your messaging, and understanding that, also how often you get up and do something like you and I are doing right now is part of that. So a lot of founders are kind of a little nervous to do things like this because it's a public speaking opportunity. You don't know who's watching. And I totally get that. Like, anybody could be sitting there going, who are these idiots who don't know what they're talking about? And we have no control over that.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and we can't control what they think of it. So it's an inherently scary thing to do, but this is part of it, getting out on. So one, I'm a huge proponent of creating video content just to put online, whether or not you think it's going to get you more customers, it builds your profile online. And I'm actually in a hiring process right now. I'm trying to find new coaches for my company. And a lot of them are telling me, I saw a video of yours and it made me want to check your company out and apply for your job. And so just me making that video a couple months ago just adds to the story. So all of your story that's out there, whether it's your website, it's your social media content, or it's your video content, or it's the way that you talk face to face, it should be as consistent as possible. And then one thing I think is really important is enthusiastic. A lot of people are afraid to get too excited about what they're talking about. I think young people too, like, I want to be taken seriously. I'm only 33 years old, and in my community, that can be really young. So, I can be afraid to, get too enthusiastic and be too childlike, but that's what people that's what audiences like.
Yeah.
It's infectious, and it's like a gift that you're giving to your audience, no matter who you're talking about. If you can say, I love what I'm doing, then people go, oh, cool. Okay, come speak about it over here. Or I want to be part of that because that sounds super fun. So having a consistent story, being like, for me, I was an actor. I went to theater school. I hated it. I went traveling, became an English teacher. Then I started a company in China. And then I came back here and put it all together. Obviously, that's a simplified version, and there's lots of other things that happen, but that's consistent. I'm trying to make that as consistent as possible across all my messaging, online and in person. And then, sorry, can you remind me what the second part of the question was?
You mentioned social media and having consistent messaging on social media about your brand and your employer brand. And I love that aspect because we are big proponents of, a lot of times as small business, you invest a heck of a lot more into your marketing aspects of your business than you ever really think about on the HR side till you need the HR side.
Right.
And so we're like, leverage your social media. You've built this brand. You've built this amazing online persona of who you are and what you do for customers. So when you throw on there, hey, it's Laura and we're hiring somebody, if you've been following us like the, other 3,000 people who have been following us and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you're automatically finding people who are already know what you do, what you're about, and are in alignment because they're following you.
Yeah.
And B, you're jumping over all of that. Hey, you want to come work for us. These are the reasons you want to come work for us, because they already have a relationship with you, whether you have a relationship with them or not.
Yeah.
So there's so many benefits to that being consistent, because even if you've never met them before, they now know you.
Yeah.
And you're not having to go to Indeed and explain to somebody who, Gary's Ladders and roofing is, because they've seen you, they've seen what you do, they've seen your work, and they're excited to be a part. Or they might know somebody who would fit the bill, be like, you need to go work for Gary because Gary's awesome.
Yeah.
They don't know Gary. They've never talked to Gary in their life. But
and
you've
that's
made
why
this amazing recruitment connection.
For sure. And that exact process that you're talking about is why it's so important to have a simple, clear, compelling story. Because if Gary's roofing and ladder company puts out a we're hiring ad,
it's two branches, the ladders and the roofing.
Right. So let's say just on the roofing side, the roofing side is hiring, and their story is like, we are a small to medium sized family run roofing who provides roofing services. Or if it's like, my name's Gary, I've been in this neighborhood for 25 years. I came here from China, 25 years ago, and I brought my kids over and we started a business. All of a sudden, which story are you going to which story is more likely to have people being like, there's this guy named Gary, and he used to live in China, and then he came here and he had no money and he started his business. That's a cool story. And all of a sudden that makes it more likely for the story to spread. Somebody who does not work for you, who is not being paid, will spread that story because of the inherent interesting nature of it. But they won't if there's not a compelling story.
Yeah. Who's Gary? I don't know Gary. I've never seen
Gary.
Gary.
I don't know. Roofing company. Yeah. And there's another one. There's Steve's Roofing, down the block.
Which one was hiring again? Oh, I can't even remember.
Yeah, exactly. And then it fizzles out.
So here's a bit of a tougher question. So this is something we've kind of done in our business as well. Is think about, what does a business owner have to believe in order for them to adopt this idea of building their employer story, or for it to work for them?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you have to believe that you are inherently valuable and interesting.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Like,
so
to
good.
stand up and speak. And a lot of us don't. And I mean, a lot of us also go minute by minute and day by day. Like, I have days where I'm like, yes, what I have to say is valuable. And then I have days where like, who the am I to get up here and talk to anyone about anything, right? So
that's entrepreneurship in a bubble.
Yeah, exactly. And we all have that. And there's a good kind of trend on social media now about entrepreneurs sort of sharing how flip-floppy and their confidence is, and their self-doubt, and we talk a lot about imposter syndrome. But really at a deeper level, it's mental health, right? Is my mental health stable enough that I feel confident going online and sharing myself and my story honestly, representing myself honestly with a bunch of strangers, and leaving myself open for whatever they want to say online? And they'll say anything, right? People will say anything online. So at a root level, you have to really believe that, like, I deserve to have my voice out there. I deserve to be to speak, if not listen to, because you can't control that, but I deserve to speak. What I'm doing is helpful to people. A lot of small business owners have that doubt. They're like, they undercharge for their services and they give way too much to their clients because they're like, I feel bad about charging people money for things and that
are easy for me and fun for me to do.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's just really believing on a very deep level that what you do has value, and your ideas and your confluence of education, skills, expertise, perspective, and experience all come together in this story, essentially. And then that has value, and sharing that honestly, authentically, and with the instinct to really help other people, that is always going to have value, whether it's for 3 people or a lot more. Just going, okay, if I can get up there and share what I'm struggling with, share what I've learned about that, and share how I've overcome or I've helped clients overcome things for free, putting that out there on social media for free, providing as much value as I can with my content, and not being jealous about it, and just putting it out there, that has inherent value. And the more I do that, the more people are going to flock to me. And then the other thing is that you're also interesting. And your story is interesting if you think about it. I use what I call the big 5 human concerns: time, money, health, relationships, and emotional well-being. If you're talking about at least 2 or 3 of those, then you've probably got people's attention. So, I used the examples earlier of somebody wanting to spend time with their newborn baby. That's about time, and that's about relationships, family. And emotional well-being as well. Obviously, if you're not there for your family in that time, it's emotionally difficult, and not to mention for your wife or your husband. And so, all these things really do play in, and these are the things that we struggle with every day, but we don't talk about them enough in our stories, in our business stories, our customer-facing or employee-facing stories. So going, okay, why am I really doing this? And also, what problems am I solving for my customers on that level? So maybe I do things faster for them, or I whatever. That's time and money. But what's really deep down there? What emotional problems am I solving for them? What human problems? Everybody knows what it's like to have these particular human emotional problems, wanting status, wanting validation, wanting peace of mind, feelings of safety, security, acceptance. We all share these feelings. So sometimes you have to go a little deeper than you think when you're talking about your story.
So much good in there. I'm going to unpack that. And I know, even when we started talking on mental health, I've never made that connection. And that is such an interesting perspective from putting yourself out there as an employer. In terms of your confidence and your resiliency to what may come. And let's be honest, 99 times out of 100, nothing comes. We're waiting for fiery darts and nothing comes. Yet we've hidden behind screens and not put ourselves out there because we're afraid of those fiery darts. Mm-hmm. Well, I am excited to get into a little bit more about employee communication with you next week, because I think there is so much good that you've said here today. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's really fun. Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of people who are like, hey, who's this Will guy and how can I get a hold of him? So where can people find you?
So people can find me at Will Greenblatt on Instagram and at Will Greenblatt on LinkedIn. LinkedIn and Instagram are great places to get in touch with me. Also, I provide, free phone consultations for anybody who's interested in our programs. We're running something we call the Powerful Pitch Program, which is a 4-week, $200 sort of boot camp where you get to come and you get to share your pitch, you get feedback from the coach, and you get to practice in front of a group of other entrepreneurs and small business owners and really hone that story down and start to, have practice, not just in what you're saying, but how you're saying it as well. So the Powerful Pitch Bootcamp can be found on our website at outloudnow.com, or you can get in touch with me on social media as well, or email me at will@outloudnow.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Will. Looking forward to next week.
Yes. Thanks for having me, Laura. Looking forward to it as well. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.